1977, Ron died in a suspicious one-car crash that involved gunshots. What? However, when the sheriff ruled the death an accident, over the other residents of Circleville began to receiving letters accusing the sheriff of covering up the so-called accident. Ron's sister's husband, Paul, good lord, Ron's sister's husband, okay, Paul Fresher, was convicted of writing these letters after there was an attempted murder, Mary, via a booby-trap-rigged pistol. What is happening? Even after he was thrown behind bars, the Circleville letters continued throughout the 1970s and early 1980s. Freshour even received one in prison. What? Hold on. I just woke up, sorry. In 1994, the Freshour was released, and he claimed his innocence until his death in 2012. The true identity of the Circleville letter writer remains unknown. Okay. Let's see. I don't like to do ones about kids. That makes me uncomfortable. The Axemen of New Orleans. In 1918, over a period of 18 months, the city of New Orleans was haunted by a serial killer known as the Axeman. The Axeman was a personification of the boogeyman, only attacking at night, and was rumored to be responsible for 12 attacks and 6 deaths. To make this mystery even more chilling, he seemed to only creep on his victims while they slept. Oh, that's my worst nightmare. Oh my god. I'm locking my doors extra today. Oddly enough, the Axeman never used his own tools and only used what he could find at the victim's house, usually an axe, which he would then leave at the scene of the crime. No thank you. No thank you. That's my literal own personal hell. You break into my house while I'm sleeping and then kill me with stuff in my house. No thank you. I'm okay. The majority of the Axeman's victims were Italian immigrants or Italian Americans, leading many citizens of New Orleans to believe that the crimes were ethnically motivated. Oh wow. Many media outlets drew frenzy from this aspect of the crimes, even suggesting mafia involvement despite the pure lack of evidence. Other crime analysts have suggested the Axeman killings were related to sex and that the murder perhaps was a sadist specifically seeking female victims. Other theories include that the Axeman killed male victims only when they blocked his attempts to murder women, supported by the cases in which the woman of the household was murdered but not the man. A theory less likely is that the serial killer committed the murders in the attempt to promote jazz music. I'm sorry, pardon me. How could that be a theory? What are we theorizing there? It's suggested by a letter that the murderer himself was rumored to write, which stated that he would spare the lives of those who played jazz in their homes. What are we talking about? That's about the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. The Axeman was never identified and the murders remain unsolved. First of all, the fact that he would go in at night and spare the man but kill the women is absurd. But also, if you play jazz, he'll just let you go. What? You best believe I'd be rocking and bopping to some jazz music. First of all, jazz music is good anyways, but I would be bopping to some jazz. Terrifying. Okay. The death of a boy in the box. On February 25th, 1957, a body of an unidentified boy was found in a box in an illegal dumping ground in Philadelphia. The boy was estimated to be around 4 to 6 years old and weighed around 30 pounds. He stood around 3'3". He was found naked but wrapped in a blanket. His hair was recently cut and his body was washed clean. There were small scars on his chin, groin, left ankle, proving that he went through a a small medical procedure. He was found with blunt force trauma to the head, and that was determined to be his cause of death. There were no witnesses. The body was found by a young man walking through in the abandoned lot. Strangely, the man waited a whole day before contacting the police, and even a second man had previously found the boy's body but had not contacted the police because he didn't want to get involved. With the cold weather and the delayed phone call, the police were not able to accurately estimate the time of the boy's death. What? There's more to this. Hold on. What? You see a child's body, and your thought is like, meh, I'm not gonna report that. I'm just gonna sit here. Like, what are we talking about? I'm just gonna let it just sit out. I don't want to be involved. But surely if somebody finds out that you saw the body, you'd be more involved by not saying anything, right? Like, surely. Okay, anyways. In order to identify the boy, the body was kept in a morgue while visitors from 10 different states tried to look for the identifiable marks to no avail. Police sent out 400,000 flyers of the boy to police stations, post office, courthouses all over the country. Even the American Medical Association sent out a description of the boy, but it led nowhere. The police compared the boy's footprints to hospitals in the area and even took fingerprints, but no records showed the boy ever existed. What? In 2016, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released a forensic facial reconstruction of the victim and added him to their database. Unfortunately, to this day, this boy has never been identified and the case still remains open. Okay, I want to ask a question about stuff like this, and obviously I don't know if y'all are going to know the answer to this, but like, I understand we're talking about the late 50s, right? So this was in 1957, so I understand like forensics aren't where they used to be and like stuff like this, but this was re-examined in 2016. You're telling me that with the technology we have now, that they couldn't have like run some stuff? I don't know. I just don't understand how it was so easy for people to get away with these kind of things. Like, I feel like in like all these old serial killers that you hear talk about, like Jack the Ripper, still don't know who he is, still have no idea who he is. Like, how does that happen? How do these like crazy huge named serial killers, like okay, an even greater example, people like Ted Bundy, okay, who were caught in the end but had to do so much to get to where they're like, Ted Bundy got out of prison, did all this, killed a bunch of other people. Like, how does this kind of stuff go on? Like, yeah, I understand, okay, the media wasn't as big or wasn't a thing, like social media wasn't a thing, like I understand that, but you're telling me that people just didn't know news, as nosy as hell as people are, and I'm talking like like people, like the old people are the nosiest people. Like, I'm sorry not to be rude, but like the elderly are the most nosy. Like, they just are. So I'm like, you're telling me that these people just didn't know that these people existed? What? I don't believe it. I don't believe that these people were just getting away with killing all these people and nobody knew. Like, there was no media coverage at all. There were nothing, we're putting it in the newspaper. Like, who? What? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe it's just me showing my age, but I just don't. Like, that's insane to me. Like, that is insane to me. Okay, so this says the mysterious drowning of Natalie Wood. I hate this car. I hate that car. My God, sounds like a train. On November 29th of 1981, around 7:30 a.m., actress Natalie Wood's body was found floating face down in the Pacific Ocean, about 200 yards away from Catalina Island's Blue Cavern Point. She was wearing only a flannel nightgown, blue wool socks, and a red down jacket. Wood was one of Hollywood's biggest stars up until the time of her death, with roles that included Miracle on 34th Street and West Side Story. Eerily, Wood's mother had given the fear of dark water to her daughter because of a fortune teller had prophesied that she would die was so great, she was even afraid to wash her hair and had recurring nightmares about drowning. Wow. Woods would have been working on a film Brainstorm at the time with the actor Christopher Walken and was invited to join her and her husband, Robert Wagner, on their yacht named the Splendor. Okay, you're terrified of water, but you have a yacht. You're terrified of dark water, which is the deepest part of the water, but you have a yacht. Sorry, that just something about that makes no sense to me. Like, what? My eyes have been really bothering me the last couple days. I'm sorry, you guys. I think it's like allergies or something. Anyway, according to the captain and family friend Dennis Davern, Wood had become infatuated with Walken during the filming, and Wagner had flown to the movie set to make sure he wasn't making a fool of himself over this. The group left on the boat around 12 in the afternoon on November 27th, 1981. Sorry. What? Okay, so that was 2 days prior. Okay. Everyone on the boat, including the captain, had been drinking for much of the weekend on that. Well, that doesn't seem safe now, does it? Like, what? On that Friday night, Wood and Wagner would have argued to the point where Davern became concerned and asked Walken to get involved. Walken refused to intervene and is quoted saying, "Never get involved in an argument between a man and his wife." I'm trying to, okay, who was she interested? I'm so confused that they all have very similar names. Okay, so she fell in love with her co-star. I gotcha. Okay, I'm with it now. Okay. Davern ended up taking Wood to shore that night using the ship's dinghy, the Prince Valorant, and they slept at a hotel in Alvin. Alavon, I don't know. I have so many questions about what's going on. I thought this woman was terrified of water. She got in a dinghy and went to shore and then took the dinghy back to the yacht. Also, it says they stayed in a hotel together. So she and the captain stayed in a hotel. Anyways, the next morning they returned to the yacht and Wood agreed to spend the rest of the weekend on board. That afternoon, Wood and Walken went to shore and began drinking at Doug's Harbor Reef and Saloon. They had much to drink, and their waitress reported Wood's not eating much of her dinner. Stumbling out of the restaurant when they were done, Walken and Wood boarded the dinghy and went back to the yacht around 10 p.m. A witness from the harbor say they heard Wood scream about something, but they brushed it off because she was so drunk. Witnesses from a nearby boat claim they heard shouts around midnight. However, there was a party going on nearby, so they thought it was from the party and did not intervene. One witness, John Payne, said he heard a woman scream, "Help me, someone help me," coming from the stern of the Splendor and potentially from the dinghy. He thought he heard a man's voice say, "Okay, honey, we'll come get you," but the tone was so mocking, which is why he thought the cries were associated with the party. That's insane. According to Wagner, there was a non-violent argument that broke out between him and Walken over politics. Okay, so this is the actor that she was infatuated with, per the article, and her husband. Woods wasn't involved and quickly became bored and assumedly went to bed. However, Wagner didn't realize that she was missing until he went to kiss her goodnight around 1:30 a.m. Ooh, that's suspect. Okay. The Coast Guard were alerted and Wood was found floating 6 hours later, about a mile away from the yacht. Shut up. A mile on water's not very far. Also, I do understand it was dark. Oh, I love these because I get my mind thinking, like, who did it? Who do I think did it? Okay. Not too far from her. Oh, with the dinghy not too far from her. Oh my god. The dinghy. Sorry. Oh, but then how would... I don't know. Okay, anyways. Los Angeles County Coroner Thomas, I'm not even gonna try and say his last name, ruled the case reason cause for death to be accidental drowning and hypothermia. Oh yeah, it was November. Damn, that's insane. According to Thomas, Wood had been drinking and she may have slipped while trying to reboard the dinghy. Wood's sister Lena expresses doubt, alleging that Wood could not swim and would have been and had been terrified of water all her life, and that she would have never left the yacht on her own by the dinghy. To this day, her death remains a mystery. This woman spent a lot of time on water to be so deathly afraid of it. I might fact check that, because that's crazy. Also, that a psychic predicted that she would die from drowning, and did. That's terrifying. That's my biggest fear. If there's one specific reason that I don't want to go to a psychic, that would be it, because they would say something about like, oh, how you're gonna die, and then I would live my entire life terrified about that. So it couldn't be me. Hold on. Oh, sorry. That's a very suspect one. I don't know. That's really crazy. Really crazy. Sorry, it's not fun. I'm just like baffled that that's like actually what's like. I'm without words. Anyway, the Ketty Cabin murders. On April 12th of 1981, what's going on in the 80s, y'all? What in the world? In Ketty, California, the Sharp family and some friends went to sleep inside cabin 28 at the Ketty Resort Lodge. Sheila Sharp would wake up to find her mother, Sue, her brother Johnny, and their friend Dana brutally murdered inside the cabin. Well, oh hell no. Hell no. While her 12-year-old daughter, while her 12-year-old sister Tina went missing from the scene. Sheila only escaped the murders by sleeping in a friend's cabin next door. Surprisingly, they found her two younger brothers, Greg and Rick, and their friend Justin asleep in the other bedroom inside the cabin and safe. Tina's remains would be found by an anonymous tip on the 3rd anniversary of the murders. Nope. Her skull was found 50 miles away from Ketty in a different county. Oh my god. There were only 2 suspects that the police examined, Marty Smart and his roommate, Bo DeBooty. I'm very confident I said that wrong. That's insane. I'm not gonna try and say it again. We're gonna call him Bo. That was awful. Marty was married to Marilyn, and there were parents to Justin. Okay, how does this, okay, I gotcha. So Justin was the friend in the other bedroom with the other guys that lived. So they're thinking that Marty is Justin's dad. Marty was apparently an abusive husband since Sheila Sharp had just escaped an abusive relationship herself. There were reports that she was giving Marilyn some counseling. When Marty found out that Sheila was interfering in his marriage, he reportedly went ballistic. Soon after the murders, Marty left Kitty for Reno, Nevada. Law enforcement felt that the murders took more than one person to conduct, which is why they took Bo into questioning as an accomplice. Bo was also an ex-con. Despite there being so much more to this case, the investigation oddly stopped there. There was an evidence that seemingly went unnoticed and people of interest were not examined properly. The murder of the Ketty crime had not been identified and the case remains unsolved. Okay, I have so many questions. Like, how do you, what? I don't understand. I don't understand how he killed these people, took this other person, took this child. Why would you take one person? Very odd. Then but you leave 3 people alive inside the cabin, completely unaware of what just happened. I'm confused. Alright, this is gonna be the last one. The disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. James Riddle Jimmy Hoffa was a former Teamsters president from 1958 to 1971. The Teamsters were known primarily as a labor union for drivers. At just age 18, Hoffa succeeded in getting dock workers better pay by organizing a strike. He began organizing for the Teamsters a year later and gradually rose through the ranks. Hoffa's influence as a Teamsters president was significant. At the time, was during this time that Hoffa got involved with the mob. What? Hoffa had hired the mob to get rid of rivals in the city. It worked. Although it worked, Hoffa was essentially owned by the mob. The mob and Hoffa had a symbiotic relationship in which the mob was able to take out loans of the Teamsters pension fund. These funds were funneled into many Las Vegas casinos, and in return, Hoffa and the pension fund got a favorable return on those loans. Despite his connections to the mob, Hoffa was still loved by the Teamsters, as he was known for increasing benefits and wages for workers. Throughout the 1940s and 50s, Hoffa was able to get good relations with the mob until he started a 13-year prison sentence in 1967 for crimes including bribery, jury tampering, and mail fraud. He was then pardoned by President Nixon in 1971, as long as he abstained from any union involvement until 1980. This would lead to Hoffa's downfall. What? Sorry, some of these stories, man, I'm just like, these people. So I feel like, and I don't know if, like, I mean, obviously, like, some of the stuff hasn't come out, like, for, like, recently, but, like, I just feel like life was so different back then. I don't know, I feel like that's, like, this is such, like, a Godfather story. But anyways, in July of 1976, it was discovered that the Teamsters' largest pension fund had been robbed of hundreds of millions of dollars, and only 2 weeks later, Hoffa vanished. On July 30th, 1975, Hoffa was seen at a Detroit area restaurant, Mechuis Red Fox. According to notes, Hoffa wrote his family he was asked to meet two acquaintances at 2 p.m. The acquaintances were suspects Anthony Jack Giagallone and Tony Pro Provenzano. Oh god, those were really hard last names. Both members of the mob. However, they never showed up to the meeting, and when they were both questioned by the FBI, they insisted no meeting was ever organized. Despite extensive surveillance and bugging by the FBI, investigators found that the mafia members who they thought were involved were generally unwilling to talk about Hoffa's disappearance, even in private. Despite the lack of evidence, there was a wide agreement among crime historians and investigators close to the case that Hoffa was murdered by his enemies in the mafia. However, key details of his disappearance remain either unknown or unprovable, and this has ensured that no individuals have ever been charged in relation to this case. Hoffa's body was never found. I want to ask y'all this, because that's the last one. Y'all think he just ran off with that money? Because that's my first instinct. Think like he just took that money and dipped. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Could very well be wrong. But that's how it seems. Like, that's what you would think of, like, now, right? Like, he took the money and just was like, bye. Like, he faked his own death, or, like, faked his own disappearance, changed his like, face and moved on, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that wouldn't have been that hard to do.